back. So we are heading into the next memory for stage 2 in our life, beginnings and always. Super excited. It is dinner, I believe. I thought there was going to be a scene in this, but then I realized the special scene is if you didn't already tell Cove about the deal with his dad, but we covered that earlier. But there should be a scene in Road Trip, which is the one after that. So either way, I'm excited for both. So let's get into our next memory, the second to last before we head into the DLCs and some more moments, hopefully. Alright, so let's get into this. We are heading for dinner. Alright. Sunlight shone through the window as you sat in their living room, your home phone pressed to your ear. Cove sat in your living room. Cove was on the other end. Surprise, surprise. It had been shaping up to be an ordinary day, like any other, until Cove had called unexpectedly. He sounded unusually nervous, greeting you. You silently listened as he kept talking, his words stilted. So I was just wondering, do you want to go over to my house for dinner tonight? Ooh, I don't think we've been in his house. The question came out strangely, almost like he'd rehearsed it a few times beforehand. Your eyes widened a little. He had inspected this to be the reason behind the call. Yeah, I'll go. I can't. You kept listening. Yeah, I'll go. It was, oh. It seemed that Cove still had more to say, and you just interrupted him. Oops. Oh, hold on. Since we're right at the beginning, we're gonna go ahead and let him finish, because I genuinely want to see if there's more, and I don't want to, like, interrupt it. Because we have that power. Oh, okay, we jump right out. Let's see. Let's get us back into this. Yes, okay. So, did not expect that to happen. Problems, difficulties, dinner. Back at it. Other than an ordinary day, silly talking. It's because usually green, it means like you're unsure, you know? But yeah, be first to beforehand, so it's important. Okay, so you kept listening. Cove continued. His next words sounded rehearsed to you and tinged with nervousness. My mom and dad, they really want you to be there. If your parents don't have a problem with it, they asked me to ask you. Took a moment to think. Dinner at home would be quiet and uneventful today if you really wanted to. You could go to Cove's instead. Cove spoke up again, breaking your thought train. His voice was softer than before. Also, I want you to be there too. Can you come over, I mean? Okay. Yeah, I can come. I've told Mom to get back to you. No, I can't make it. Why am I the only one invited between the whole family? Yeah, I can come. Thanks, Jamie. I'll let them know when I can. He sounded noticeably relieved by your response. Was you coming over for dinner tonight, or today, that serious? He spoke to you for a little while longer to explain what time to come over and other details, then hung up. Okay, I'm happy with that. And that was that for now, anyway. So right now, I think, for my first playthrough, I definitely want to make my own choices. And I usually don't go back, but I was like, it's just the beginning. I want this to all play out the way I wanted to the first time around, and I don't want to mess with anything. Soon enough, the sun dipped out of the sky and the evening came. It was time for you to head over to Cove's house. After letting Elizabeth know you were leaving, she didn't look away from the TV, just grunted. You made the small journey across the street. You knocked a couple times on the heavy door to their condo. As you waited for Nancy, you found yourself contemplating being a guest while both of Cove's parents were there. It was exciting, you were apprehensive, made the idea curious. You didn't think it would be especially interesting. You couldn't say you were thrilled. Oh, that's exciting. It's like, I think this is the first time we get to go over to his house and have dinner with them. You had thought today was going to be boring, but it turned out to be much more interesting. You didn't get too much time with your thoughts, though. The door opened, and soon enough, Cove's mom, Kyra, stood in the frame, smiling warmly at you. Hey, Jamie, welcome. Please come on in. She opened the door wider and moved to make room. You stepped inside, allowing her to shut it behind you. Thank you so much for coming over. I know it was kind of last second. Oh, it's nice, what they're showing you the place. Thank you for having me. Of course, just make yourself at home. It's not my home, but I've been given permission to say that. Hey, Jamie, welcome to our humble abode. You jerked your head towards the sound of Mr. Holden's voice. He waved at you briefly from the kitchen with his back turned and a large spoon in hand. Hope you're hungry, because I'm whipping up a lot of tasty stuff. True to his word, you heard something sizzling on the stove. You closed your eyes and inhaled. It smelled spicy and savory. When Mr. Holden, busy and Cove nowhere to be seen, it was just you and Kyra. She gave you a wiry smile. He sure is. Well, I've been barred from cooking the entire time I'm staying here. Can you believe that? She nudged you with her elbow. Mr. Holden scoffed good-naturedly, then spoke from over his shoulder. You're on vacation, Kyra. You need to accept that already. She held back, amusement obvious in her face and in her tone. People still cook when they're on vacation. Everyone's gotta eat. It's not like I'm some celebrity who can go out for every meal or hire a private chef. Well, in this house, you are VIP. He's so nice to his ex-wife. Kyra smiled and shook her head quietly, then she turned to face you once more. Sorry about that, Jamie. Here I was trying to string up a conversation with you, and Cliff had to butt in. I don't butt in. She eyed him, chuckling in disbelief, and he wasn't exactly disapproving her point with that. Kyra leaned over to whisper to you. It's okay. He likes to be included. Since Clifford insists on cooking all by himself, he'll have to wait. The two of us can chat. An explanation continued to be said in a hushed tone, just to be safe. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm not good. Things are okay. I'm not really sure. You didn't reply first. I'm good. That's what I like to hear. She opened her mouth to say something more, but some lightly pounding footstep caught your attention. You checked to see Cove emerging from the hall a few moments later. He must have heard all the commotion and left his room to see what was going on. He quickly took stock of the situation. His cheeks tinted pink at the sight of you standing in his living room, and his hand came to rub his arm almost bashfully. Jamie, you made it. Thanks for coming. Cove's voice was unnaturally loud if he thought you wouldn't be able to hear him from where you were, only a few feet away. Hi, Cove. You doing okay? Yeah, I'm fine. He didn't sound convincing at all. You narrowed your eyes suspiciously, but didn't call him out on it. If you could talk to him alone tonight, maybe you'd ask him what was going on then. It was when you glanced away from Cove that you spotted his parents watching the two of you interact. Cove noticed their stares too, meeting them with narrow eyes. Are we having dinner now? Not yet, Ben. I'm still cooking. Alright, I'm gonna go back to my room. He turned to leave. He bent his head to the side to face you. You coming? Oh, we haven't seen his room before. The question was quiet, but you heard it clearly. He smiled, pleased that he asked, and nodded in the affirmation. Could you imagine we just get left out there? His parents are just like, oh. Cove turned fully and made his way down the hall. Have fun, you two. We'll call when food's ready to go. With that, you followed after Cove. The two of you made your way down the hall. Ooh, interesting. It's the first time you see a close room. You'd visited before, but only rarely. Going over to a close room is standard occurrence for you nowadays. I mean, for us, it's the first time. I get it, it was not theirs. Cove got to the door first, opened it, and stepped inside. You joined him. Oh, nice! I love it. It's so pretty. There was a mat on the floor in front of the door. I stepped over the threshold into his room and felt the crunch of sand beneath your feet. When you glanced down, sound was clustered around the entrance. You even spotted smaller amounts of it dusted the rest of the room's floor. Though you hadn't anticipated it, you weren't surprised at the sight. Of course, Beach Boy Cove Holden would go to his room all sandy. So this is my room. Cove was a bit shy as he said so, fidgeting with the hem of his shirt, using one hand and vaguely gesturing into the space with the other. There's stuff you can sit on if you want. He looked over at the desk chair as an option. When you turned back, Cove was already sitting on the edge of his large bed. Trying to make your own beach with all this sand. It's nice. Thanks for letting me come near you and show it. Beach with all this sand. No. But it'd be cool if I could, though. You couldn't help recalling a long time ago. Cove explained his childhood dream house would be something located right on the shore of the beach. Oh, that's right. And it's cool that, like, they recall that stuff because it almost feels like you've grown up with them as well, and like we remember when he mentioned that in the last episode. I believe it's growing up, when they were talking about what they were going to be when they were kids. Very cool. Maybe that idle thought still held an appeal to him, for him. It made you smile to think about. Didn't sit anywhere. He sat on the chair. Someone's going to bed. Didn't sit anywhere. Moved in front of the open bookcase situated in one corner of Cove's room. Cove frowned. He was actually disappointed. He decided to stand over there. He might have hoped you'd be closer. Smelled that. He smiled at the company and chuckled over it. He felt very charmed by his reaction. With his eyebrows, you both kept noticing each other's moves. You only shrugged back. There's nothing to worry about it. You liked an open book, you know that? You're such a sweet guy, Cove. You're adorable. You're such a sweet guy. What? I thought the greens were off. But I guess it's changing. I don't know. He inspected the compliment. Somehow his fluster grew worse, spreading all over the way down to his neck. He fumbled for his words. I'm not, that's... He ripped his blanket underneath him in search for something more to say. Do you see my fish? I've got some in the tank right there. Cove threw his hands in front of him and directed your eyes towards his pets. He was trying pretty poorly to change this topic. That much was clear. He decided to show him mercy and allow it. He started to watch the bright fish swim. There were a bunch of them floating to and fro in the open space. They stood out starkly against the green aquarium plants. How long have you had these fish? My dad bought them for me not very long after I moved here. I guess it's been years now. Wow, that's a long time. You peered carefully into the tank. The fish looked to be doing well. You must have taken good care of them. Most of them were small, but there were one especially big one. What are their names? I don't name them. Well, not really. He lifted an eyebrow at him and continued the explanation sheepishly. Mostly I call them things based on what they look like. Squirt for the small one, tangerine for the really orange one, that sort of thing. I've had a lot of fish, and I'm not very that good at coming up with names. Found that funny, found it surprising, found it not funny. Who knew that was a weakness of his? It was an entertaining revelation. Oh, a couple of them have other types of names. He pointed to the small orangish-red fish. It was minding its own business away from the others. My dad named her Dreamcatcher. And that other one's Mark. Marm came up with that one. Cove smiled to himself, his eyes reflecting the glow of the tank. You let other people name your fish? Yeah, it's nice. He then turned to you, tilting his head to the side. There was a considering look on his face. Do you want to name one? Yeah, I do. Can I? No thanks. Yeah, I do. Yeah, of course. His smile grew a little at your enthusiasm. Cool. There are a few who don't have names right now, the newer ones, so you can pick which you want to name. He pointed each of the recent acquisitions out to you. The first one was the smallest fish in the tank. It was completely orange and zipped all over the place, running laps around the others. The second was slightly bigger and red. His tail was dotted with black spots, which seemed to resemble freckles. The last fish was the biggest one. Its multicolored scales rippled under the bright light of the tank, and it slowly made its way across the vast expanse. You went with. I like the idea of the smallest one. Sounds about right. Cove only nodded at your answer, waiting on you to decide the suitable name. You watched the fish you chose closely. As you did, a name eventually came to you. Ah, Frank, Sunbeam, Gil, Jamie, Cove. Type your own answer. Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, we'll call him Gil. Cove laughed unreservedly at your choice. It was affectionate rather than insulting. I could have come up with that. Alright, it's Gil. With that, his attention moved from you to the tank. He peered fondly at it and its inhabitants. He smiled proudly at Gil as it swam through the tendrils of plants and disappeared, then reappearing soon after. You know, I'm not allowed to have pets in my house. Not even fish. A corner of Cove's lips turned down at that. That sounds unfair. It's not like fish would make a mess of your house or anything. You just gotta take care of their tank and feed them and they'll be okay. Right? My moms can be strict over the weirdest things sometimes. I don't mind too much, I get it. Strict over the weirdest things sometimes. They trust Elizabeth and me to go around the neighborhood alone, but they won't let us have a pet. Doesn't make sense. No. What are you doing?
Grab a few beers.
Oh, I missed what it said. I don't know, they seem pretty against it. Your current conversation brought to mind a memory from years ago. You launched into it without warning, earning you a brief, confused look from Cove. One time, Elizabeth, came back from playing at the beach and just shut herself in her room. She only came down for food and then she ran back upstairs straight after. It was kind of weird. My mom's didn't think much of it at first, though. But then that night, Mom went into her room to say goodnight and started screaming. Mom and I ran over to see what happened. Lizzie had a huge lizard in her arms. Cove's eyebrows rose at that, and he leaned forward with interest. A lizard? Where'd that come from? Elizabeth said she saw it half buried in the sand, and didn't know what it was. Then she pulled it out and got the answer, so she brought it home. She had the lizard in her room for most of the day, because she wanted to keep it. Mom and Mom were not happy. They worried about putting it out during the night, but she was going to have to let it go in the morning. Lizard was really upset. She did bring it back to the beach eventually, but she wouldn't talk to anyone for days. When she did get over it, it was almost like it never happened. You laughed thinking back to that time. Elizabeth had always been stubborn, When she was younger, she forgot grudges quickly. Now it wasn't so easy. Cove had been quiet for most of the story, apart from the reveal of the lizard. He had a thoughtful look on his face. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to have a sibling. He gave a serious thought to his statement before he told him. It's fun, has its ups and downs. You're lucky to be an only child. It's nice and idea in general, but my sister's Elizabeth. I mean, as funny as it is, there are ups and downs. I think it's good having a sibling. I have a sibling, and I very much enjoy that I have them. It can drive me crazy, unlike anyone else, but they're also some of the best people you can have in your life is having a sibling, I find, who's, you know, lives with you and is always kind of there for you and understands your situation. Like anything you go through with the family, they go through, and they become like your first best friend. Like, I think it's, and you learn to share, and I find you're less, you know, just weird and alone. We always used to call it, take no offense. It was just kind of a joke we used to say, but anyway, yeah, my point being, I think it's great having a sibling. I'm glad I have mine. It's fun to have her there when she wants to be there, but now Elizabeth barely feels like hanging out with me. Cole pursed his lips at the words, considering them quietly for a while. That's interesting. I think your family is cool. Didn't have much else to say, though. Well, on the topic of your family, you considered your relationship with your moms, too. They're absolutely the best. You got along with your moms, thought your moms were okay, you found your moms what to go do with. They seem to be great. You couldn't even consider having another option. You couldn't have better parents. A thought struck to you, and your attention suddenly settled back on Cove. Yeah, my moms might not let Elizabeth and me have pets and stuff, but at least they never tried to pay someone to be my friend. He grinned over at Cove. It had been years since he found out about your first meeting with his dad. It's easy to joke about these days. Cove tossed his head back in an overly dramatic way, sighing heavily. So I guess this is when we could have mentioned it instead of him already knowing. I'm kind of glad we did it when he was younger, so then this way it's not like this huge thing at this part, and like the fondness doesn't get bothered. That was when we were kids, so we could kind of risk there being a little bit of an outsplash. I almost forgot about that. Really? No, not really. I'll never be able to forget that actually happened for the rest of my life. It's going to humiliate me forever. I'm really sorry about what happened to him. Then I'm sorry, since I'm gonna bring it up forever. You laughed. I'm really sorry about what happened, Cove. Cove took one look at your remorseful face and waved your apology off with a hand. It's okay. I mean, it's not, but I'm not sad about it anymore, just really embarrassed. Time passed, but you didn't really notice. Two of you were busy making plans for the rest of the summer and chatting about your respective days. Eventually you heard a muffled holler from a different part of the house. You and Cove raised your head from the music and said, "It's time for dinner." Cove watched the firmly shut door as he had been locked behind for most of the night, but he didn't make a move to get up from the bed. You couldn't see his face, so you didn't know what expression he was wearing. I'm glad you came. Cove peeked back at you from the side. It's been awkward. I get that. It's been hard on you, huh? He felt sympathetic towards him. Oh, he means his parents. I thought he was like, I'm glad you came. It's been awkward. But I get it. It's with his family. You felt sympathetic towards him. You didn't know what he was going through, but you cared about him. Cove said nothing else and remained sat where he was. Now would be a good time as any to ask him why his parents are so suddenly wanted you to come over. Is there a reason why we come over? Don't work tonight? It hasn't been awkward for just me. Sometimes it gets like this when no one else is around, but now you're here. Huh, you didn't consider that, but that sort of made sense in a way. There was another shout from outside, too muffled to actually know the words, but you can imagine what they were. Let's go. Cole finally got up, lumbering away with his shoulders side. You followed after him. Together, two of you made your way back to the living room. As you expected, Cole's parents were politely waiting for you at the kitchen table, beside the windows overlooking the back of the house. Food had been prepared and set. Mr. Holden beamed at you and Cole and took your place. Hope everyone's hungry. I cooked up a feast. I know I am. Yeah. Cole's mumbled response wasn't nearly as upbeat as theirs. His parents didn't notice, or they pretended not to. Mr. Holden instead looked at you, grinning. Let's all just take a moment to thank our special guests for being with us here tonight. I'm so glad you were able to make it, Jamie, and on such short notice, too. Thank Cole's parents back for inviting you. He didn't say anything, he felt awkward, so I thank them back. I'm happy to be here. Thank you both for inviting me. Well, that's it. Everyone please dig in. You can help yourselves to the food. Upon his encouragement, you looked over at the meal spread out in front of you. There was a large garden salad in the center, surrounded by a variety of Mexican dishes. There was a lot of sides and optional sauces to add. You were very happy with these options. You could work with this. You weren't exactly a fan. This kind of surprised you. Oh, I'm happy with the options. Try something new. You love Mexican food, and there were so many dishes to choose from. You were practically drooling. Utensils and plates scraped and clinked together as the group began filling their plates. Cliff, could you pass the salsa verde? Of course. Thank you. Let me just say, you really outdid yourself tonight. I'm so jealous. Jealous of what? Your cooking's nothing to sneeze at, Kyra. Close friends made small talk, filling the silence with what seemed to be barely any effort. We chimed in as well. Did it take you a long time to cook all this, Mr. Holden? Oh, none at all. Sure, this is more than I usually make for me and Cove, but I enjoyed every second of it. Might have gone faster if you had some help, though. Cove's mom grumbled, but it was lighthearted. Mr. Holden chuckled and shook his head. Not this again. I make the rules here and I say guests don't cook. Even when they're staying for literal weeks? Even then. Everything looks great, Dad, as always. Thanks, Sport. Glad you think so. Cove smiled. It was genuine, even if it was strained at the corners. Brief silence interspersed the small talk. You piled some food on your plate, waiting for your turn if someone was serving themselves a dish that you had your eye on. Once the food had been divided and things settled down, Cove's parents started talking again. Now then. Sat in the seat. Whoa. Sat in your seat. How has everything been over at your house and your mom's well? You've been keeping busy this summer, or maybe you're just trying to take it easy during the break? Found around by so many questions, you were more than happy to answer the questions. You were surprised but didn't mind the interest you felt comfortable. Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer the questions. Now that I know I'm basically here as a, diffuse the awkwardness. Cove's parents seemed honestly interested to hear it from you. You were kind of flattered by all the attention. You answered how things were at your house. You told them your moms were doing great. You mentioned things you've done this summer. How things are at your house. It's been good. Yeah, it's fine. Wonderful. Told them how your moms are doing. Moms are great. Moms took our dessert a couple weeks ago. Such a project did really well. Is that so? I have to congratulate her when I see her. You mentioned things we've done this summer. I'm not sure where to start. There's been so much that's happened. You know, I've been up to since so much has included your family, the nice one here. Mr. Holden raised his brows when you answered to that. You sure are keeping yourself busy. I could learn a thing or two from you. That was a good question answering. Kara nodded along. You could tell she was actually listening to the words you were saying. She was trying to include you, not humor you. Did you know Cliff Jamie is really into reading? Mr. Holden's face lit up and he stopped eating so he could lean forward and his arms braced against the table. Oh, it's cool. They remember from the last time. Oh, that's right. Very cool. It's just a hobby. Pretty serious about it. I've always been pretty serious into reading. You are at such a young age. That's really impressive. If you keep putting in the time, I'm sure you can do something great. Thanks. Cole's parents are definitely the encouraging type, but you can already tell that much about them. Okay. There was a lull in the conversation as everyone focused their attention on their respective plates. You noted for the first time that Cole's parents were the ones guiding the conversation. You wonder if you should break the silence this time. Coming up across after that. Now we can bring up a different topic. I also like other things. Would you like to tell us more? Absolutely. Look, genuinely eager for you to keep talking, so you did. The rest of the dinner continued just like that, with light conversation as you ate your meals. Eventually, all the dishes on the kitchen table were pretty much gone. Kira sat down with her fork resting in her arms at her side, letting loose a satisfied sigh. Her plate was completely empty. That was delish. Thank you for your culinary creations, Cliff. Mr. Holden was like a flower soaking up the rays of the sun. He beamed, flattered by the praise. You ate way too much. You ate until you're satisfied. You try not to eat too much, even though it's good. I always eat way too much. Tried to lick your plate clean. You were so full, you were afraid you might burst. Cole successfully kept his presence to a minimum for the full meal. He was slumped over even now, toyed with the silverware. His parents practically only talked to you. Most attempts to entice him to join the conversation failed. It wasn't typical for him to say so little. He at least tried to participate. You didn't get much time to contemplate Cole's situation because your attention was taken by Mr. Holden, pointedly clearing his throat. Not to sound like a broken record, but thanks for coming, Jamie. I'm glad you finally got the chance to have you over for a real dinner. What? Did I hear that right? This is the first time Jamie has ever had a dinner here? Why in the world haven't you invited her over sooner? Cove was always the one going over to Jamie's house until now. I mean, how was I supposed to reject the generous offer of the Wonder family to host my kid? Kara shook her head with the amused smile she was sporting and told you that she wasn't actually mad. This guy, honestly. Oh, look at the whole family there. The three of you looked at Cove in unison, his small sound being more than enough to get the focus on him after his silence, but now he stopped fiddling with his fork. Would it be alright for Jamie to stay over, for the night? He shot you a shy glance and smiled a little. If you're cool with that? His whole shoulders stiffened. He sat up straighter, his eyes starting back and forth between you and Cove. His mouth opened, but not a peep came out. You'd never seen Cove's dad say no to him before, but this was different than the usual request. It wasn't so simple, and Mr. Holden was lost. Then Cove's mom reached out and took a hold of his shirt collar. She pulled him closer. She glanced at you before leaning in and bringing her hand up in front of their faces. The two adults whispered seriously to each other. Cove's eyes opened wider. He leaned forward, as if that would help him overhear his parents' conversation. Ooh, what are we doing? Because he slept over at our place before, but that was when we were kids. Mr. Holden kept gesturing with his hands while Kara made sure he didn't get too far away with all of his movements. Every now and then, both of them would watch you and Cove out of the corner of their eye. It didn't seem like they were fighting to you. They looked more like the kind of tiny sports team having a private huddle. After a bit, they broke their powwow and moved back to sit properly in their chairs. You stuck a look at Cove, stared at them expectantly. You were eager to hear their verdict, too. We, Kara and I, think that should be fine, but he lifted a hand dramatically, his brow raising to met Cove's gaze and then your own. We'll have to talk with Jamie's parents to make sure they'd be comfortable with it. If they are, we can arrange for a sleepover to happen on a different night when everyone is more prepared. Jamie's folks don't like the idea. There's nothing we can do. Finished his speech with a wide shrug, using his full arms. He also checked out Kira from the corner of his eyes and gave her a crook smile. She nodded approvingly and grinned back. You thought you saw her give him a thumbs up, but his hand was particularly blocked by the table. They looked so pleased with themselves with the answer that they just passed the actual decision on whether it was alright or not to someone else, namely your parents. Yeah, pretty much. If this was a sports game, they would have punted the ball away. Cove hung his head deflated. He had been hoping you could stay over today, not some hypothetical time in the future. Give him words of encouragement, kind of on the back. I'll sneak a phone call in the room tonight. Hey, you could always sneak into my room again. You patted again. His parents are right there, though. We'll try the green because that usually tries to do it. If you get your home phone too, then we can still talk even though I'll be back home. Cove's eyes sparkled at this suggestion. It may or may not end up being possible, but it was worth trying. With that, dinner finally came to an end. Mr. Holden stood up from the table and began collecting empty plates. Cove was asked to help out, but she did with little fuss. Kara tried to lend a hand as well, however Mr. Holden didn't let her. Seemed she was barred from cleaning as well as cooking. You weren't allowed to chip in either, since you were there as a declared guest of honor. Although the meal was over and the night wasn't, it looked like you weren't going home just yet. After all, you were asked to wait on the couch. While Cove and his dad were cleaning up the mess, Kara disappeared down the hall after shooting you a wink. It was a bit strange sitting by yourself while everyone else had something to do. Luckily you weren't alone for too long. Yeah, I know that feeling. After a couple of minutes, Cove's mom returned with a deck of cards in hand. She strolled into the room confidently while shuffling. So, who's up for a few rounds? Cove and his dad looked over their shoulder at the question. They were mutually intrigued by the cards in her hand. She beamed at their expression and stepped further into the living room, ignoring the couches. She sat cross-legged on the floor by the coffee table. She turned to you and gestured at the space beside her, smiling invitingly. You accepted and followed her lead. The living room carpet was soft, though the hardwood floor underneath could definitely still be felt. Kara did an overhand shuffle while she waited for the others to finish their tasks. The smile had yet leave her lips. This is going to be good. You were excited, you were nervous, you were bored, you were kind of annoyed, you enjoyed enthusiasm. We were excited. I always like card games. You enjoyed card games, and it would be fun to play with Cove and his parents. It didn't take much longer for Cove and his dad to wrap things enough to call it good. Cove's dad appeared first, followed closely behind by Cove. Mr. Holden rubbed his hands together in anticipation. Alright, I'm ready. As he took his seat across from you on the floor, you noticed that Cove hadn't joined him. He went straight down the hall instead without even a word. You stared at confusion as he just moved through his bedroom door. Cove's parents didn't look concerned at the stunt. Kara nonchalantly split the deck of cards into two and rifled the halves together while offering an explanation of sorts. Cole doesn't keep his wallet with him when at home. He puts it away. What? Cole quickly returned to the living room, a black wallet in his hand, and took place at the foot of the table with the rest of you. He blinked at Cove, unzipping his wallet. You all use real money on card games with family? While you sat there, your hands idle in your lap, the three shot looks at one another and sized each other up. That's right, $5 per person. Per round per person, winner takes all. Go big or go home. Oh, are you planning to kick Jamie to the curb? Or did you intend on donating to the guest spawner's pot, Mr. High Roller? Mr. Holden narrowed his eyes and leaned back against the side of the couch, completely at ease. If Jamie wants to play, I'll fund her way in. Don't worry about that. Resting an arm across the top of a knee that he'd propped up, Cole's dad was acting sick in a way you'd never seen before. Appreciate his offer. You joked that he shouldn't be so confident. It felt awkward in the situation. Surely, his surety in this was pretty volume. Appreciate his offer. Thank you, Mr. Wood. His tone and stance instantly became more familiarly friendly when he started directing his words to you. No problem, you can count on me. You can let me pay for Jamie, she's my friend. Mr. Holden grinned with a chuckle. Alright, bud, I can see. You're too polite for me. Well, you've got your ticket. Interested in throwing in? He glanced around. This seemed like serious business. In response to your consternation, Kara softened her competitive smile. Don't worry too much. We'll probably just do some round of goldfish tonight. No biggie. What do you think? You joined, you watched. I will join one. I'd love to play. Dylan gave a big suck up while nodded firmly back. You're really good at goldfish. You were decent at goldfish. I'm, like, decent. Funny one, sometimes you last, like most people. You like to think you weren't bad at it, though. Fantastic. We'll play for however long everyone wants to keep going until people start running out of cash, but are still refusing to quit while they're behind. Speak for yourself, I see. With a laugh, Kara nudged you using an elbow and motioning towards the other two with her chin. Don't be fooled by their soft faces. These boys are sharks. In reaction to her word, Mr. Holden smirked and Ko's eyebrows became more angled. Kara's phrasing made you think back to when you were young, specifically of Mr. Holden's favorite shark pants that he used to wear all the time. Perhaps you had been a fit for him in ways you didn't know of. Perhaps they had been a fit for him in ways you didn't know of. You could feel tension in the air. Kova's parents glued their eyes to one another, then all placed $5 bills in the empty space in front of them. Kova dropped the next one for you, giving you a teeny smile after he did. Once this was done, Kyra began dealing out cards to everybody. It was time to begin. The first round came and went quickly, with the group getting into the groove of things. You won right away, which meant you had money to keep playing the second round. You're a natural. Nicely done. You better keep those wits about you for the next round, though. As the night went on, so did the games. Mr. Holden would jokingly shake his fist whenever someone other than him got a pair. Kara acted as a news anchor, reporting on every move everyone made by speaking into her curled fists. Cove was still of a few words, but now it was because he was focused on the game instead of being overcome with awkwardness. Most of the time, he even spotted a smile on his lips. You won quite a few games to your delight. You had a hefty money pile on your side of the table. You must forget playing Jamie's way in now, huh? No way. Jamie might be beating me, but she's also beating you too. Cove turned towards you and smiled, looking pleased at your ability to match his mom and dad. You grinned at him, touched by his speedy comeback. It became clear that where the money went in the moment didn't really matter. They ended up giving it back to one another in other ways, and not just through more rounds of cards. You sat back looking over the scene, a teeny smile grew on your face. Co's family was pretty cool, you thought. You were glad you got this chance to come over and spend time with the three of them. Oh, very nice! So that's dinner! So, I loved that. That was adorable. It was interesting. I was surprised going in and playing with real money for cards in the family, though. That's a new one. But anyway, I still thought it was great. Loved this. I cannot wait to go on to the next one, and then we're into the DLCs again. We're getting so close. Ugh, I don't want it to end, but I want to see what happens all at the same time. I think Road Trip's gonna be exciting. We'll see. So, that was dinner. Thank you so much for watching. I loved it. It's cool we're seeing some new stuff. And I can't wait to get on to next Road Trip.
Where am I going now? Just falling over.